Now yes, this pickups video will be a back-to-backs pickups video, but give me some credit, I haven't posted a video in over a month and I just want to get these games shown and out of the way so I can move on and do some of the other content that I want to continue with. And if you look at this guy back here, that's one of the guys that I want to respond to in the near future. But before I do that, I'm going to show you some of the games that I've picked up over the last 6 weeks, talk about them, because one of the reasons I haven't been posting so many videos is because I've been playing too many video games. I know, bad me, right? But if you're interested to see what I picked up over the last 6 weeks, then you just wait until after these. Now, as per my normal format, I will be showing you the newer games that I picked up first and work my way back to that juicy retro at the end. And without further ado, the first game that I picked up for the PlayStation 5 is War Hospital. Now, War Hospital's not one I can talk about at the moment, but it is now in the PlayStation 5. And the reason I picked it up is quite simple. If you know me and you know the channel, you know I do love a good resource management game, and this is exactly what this is. Now, it didn't get good reviews on Metacritic, but you know what, I don't care about Metacritic. I hardly ever read the Metacritic reports before I go to buy a game, and when you do, half the time they don't get it right anyway, and that's something that I'll probably cover later on, you'll see with other pickups. But War Hospital into the collection, where it will remain forever, and I'm looking forward to seeing if this is any good. Let's just cross our fingers, hey? Now, next up, and still for the PlayStation 5, I picked up Terminator Resistance, this lovely steelbook. Now, it wasn't the steelbook that encouraged me to pick this particular game up. It was the fact that I played RoboCop last year. Look at these lovely postcards. But I picked up RoboCop last year, absolutely loved it, and when I realised that the same guys made this game here, and it got some decent reviews. Apparently it's not quite as good as RoboCop, but it's Terminator, another franchise that I love. It's into the collection, where it will remain forever, and I'm looking forward to playing that one. Next up, and still for the PlayStation 5, is a game that I've actually played already. I popped this one in, he's a Laosa of Dana, and I absolutely loved this game. This was fantastic. Nice complete condition, comes with the soundtrack and the manuals. I do love it when PlayStation 4 and beyond get some sort of physical feelies inside. I mean, just look at that. Does that not make you smile? But anyway, back onto the game. The game itself, now it's a JRPG. You all know, or most of you all know, that I absolutely love JRPGs. But this one, it was a PS Vita game originally, but it feels so much more like a PlayStation 2 game. And that's what I fell in love with. Now, I didn't pick this up on a whim. It was Johnny Millennium over at Happy Console Gamer. He's been banging on about this game for so long now, and I thought it was time to pick it up. I did pick it up. I did play it and I absolutely fell in love with it, and if you're a fan of JRPGs and you haven't played this yet, you must get this, and especially if you're a fan of the PlayStation 2 era. Next up, and still for the PlayStation 5, is Unicorn Overlord. Now, this game was on my to get list for this year. It's just released this year. I haven't ever played a Vanillaware game before, but the art style's fantastic. That's what kind of drew me in, but more importantly, Atlas. Atlas drew me in. I am a huge fan of Atlas now, thanks to Persona 5, and I have this wonderful game, and it's been played. This is one of the reasons I haven't been making a lot of videos over the last little while. I've been banging so much time into games, and fairly large substantial games, and Unicorn Overlord, would I recommend it? If you're a fan of strategy JRPGs, then definitely you need to get Unicorn Overlord. It's a fantastic looking game. It plays a little bit differently from what I'm used to, but once you get into the swing of the way it is, then it's just a wonderful must-have game. Probably not going to be my top game of this year. I still think that's going to be Eiyuden Chronicles, but you'd never know because there's lots of other games coming out. But Unicorn Overlord, fantastic game, absolutely love my time with it. I will go back and replay, but it's in the collection now and it'll stay there forever. Next up, and still for the PlayStation 5, we have another game that I've already played, and it took me such a long time to play this game. Now, Alone in the Dark, most of you will know that this is a modern day remake of the original PC game, and that's exactly what this is. This is a modern day remake. It's got modern visuals, it's got modern control schemes, modern sound design, and you know, the best way I think about it when I'm trying to describe this game is if you take the original Resident Evil trilogy 1, 2 and 3 and meld it with Silent Hill 1 and 2, and this is what you get with a modern day remake of those games. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Metacritic, on the other hand, didn't think it was absolutely fantastic, which is a crying shame because I think it's tanked not only just the game but the developers as well. But this is a must play. It took me so long to play, not because it's a long game, it's only about 8 to 10 hours long. It's just, I'm a bit of a big fraidy cat when it comes to horror games these days, and I could only play it at about 20 minutes at a sitting before I had to go away, go back to a nice comfortable JRPG, calm myself down and come back into this. But if you're a fan of horror, and especially classic survival horror, this is a must-have game for you and you must play it. I hope you get there and get it because it's in my collection where it will remain proudly forever. Last up for the PlayStation 5 we have what I truly call a retro game, because this is the classic Jurassic Park collection on the PlayStation 5, and as you can see there from the screenshots, it's a whole selection, I believe 7 games, all from, it looks like, the Game Boy there right through to probably the Mega Drive, and I can't wait to get my hands on this, well, get my hands on the controller while I'm playing these games. This is retro, this is a remake, yes, and I absolutely adore that companies are doing this. I was quite surprised to be able to pick this one up, especially in Scotland. We don't see a lot of limited run games just popping up in the wild. I wouldn't generally buy from them straight away. I may do in the future, but at the moment I just wait until I see if I can see them out there. This one popped up, had to buy it. The Jurassic Park collection, the classic collection, 7 games, 1 disc. Can you ask for more than that? Well, I couldn't, so I picked it up. It's in the collection and looking forward to playing that one soon. Next up, we're moving down a generation and away from Sony and onto the Switch, and I picked up the Collection of Mana. Now, I didn't pick up the Collection of Mana for the Secret of Mana or Trials of Mana. I really picked this one up because of Final Fantasy Adventure or Mystic Quest. Never played that. I love Final Fantasy, and anyone out there that's watching this who knows me knows I absolutely adore Final Fantasy. So I had to pick up this Collection of Mana despite having at least one of the other games on the PlayStation 4. But the Switch is such a good way to play, especially retro RPGs. They're just absolutely designed for it. You can take it on the go. You can suspend the system whenever you like, so you don't need to, wait for a long time to get a save point before you can put the game down. The Switch is fantastic for that. Can't sing the praises of the Switch highly enough, and I'm looking forward to playing all of these games in this, but especially Mystic Quest. But it's in the collection now, but it will remain forevermore. Next up, and still for the Switch, I picked up Harvest Stella. Now, this was a game that I was definitely going to pick up at some point, and I picked it up sooner than I expected due to a special person, a young chap by the name of John. You might know him as Chicken Fillets on YouTube, and yes, the link will be in the description if you want to go and check him out if you haven't done so already. But he enforced this game onto me. He won't stop about it. He's absolutely relentless. I have got it in. I am working my way through it. I must be about halfway through it already because this is one of the games that I've been pumping a lot of time into, and it's a decent game. I don't think it's quite as good as John tries to make it out to be, but we can't all be perfect, can we? It is fantastic when it comes to the farming side of it. I know a lot of people don't like farming elements in their games, but for me, the farming in this is not too heavy, but you need to do it if you want to make money. You won't make money off of defeating enemies in the dungeons. You want to make money to buy new gear, and you need to farm, and I think that's quite a unique thing. So Harvest Stella, I'm happy to have it in the collection. I'm happy that John finally talked me into it. It's in the collection, it's getting played at the moment, and it'll stay there forevermore. Next up, we're moving down a generation back to Sony and the PlayStation 4, and I picked up Ys Memories of Seta. Now, I've picked this up immediately after completing Ys 8, Laosa of Dana, because I fell in love with it so much. I've already popped this in and started playing a bit of it. Now with this one, also a Vita game originally, but the controls in this one are just a little bit less modern. So I'm going to wait until I get my headspace right to go back to a little bit more clunky of a mechanic when it comes to the gameplay. You don't have camera controls in it, which is something that we're all very used to in this day and age. So far, however, with the maybe 2-3 hours I've put into it, yes, I'm going to enjoy it. Adol Christen's in it again. I love this character, he's fantastic. And the Ys games, I'm falling in love with them. It's as simple as that. So I had to buy that, had to get it into the collection after Ys 8, and I'll be tracking down all the other Ys games that I can get my hands on in the collection now though, and it will be played and loved forevermore. Next up, still for the PlayStation 4, we have the Scare 5 in Shock Horror. It's another RPG, another strategy RPG, and I have never played it. I haven't played any of the Scare games. I've played maybe about 2 hours of the first game, fell in love with that 2 hours, but when I realised there was so many more in the collection, I had to wait until I had them all, because I want to kind of sit down and just play these all back to back. Now I know a lot of people don't like doing that, they get fatigued playing the same franchise back to back. I'm not one of those people. I can sit and play a franchise with 5, 6, 7 games in it back to back without breaking a sweat. So the Scare 5's into the collection now for the PlayStation 4, and I believe I may have them all now. I may be up to date, I'll double check that, but if I am, you'll see me start talking about the Scare games a bit more regular. But the Scare 5 for the PlayStation 4 in the collection, and I'm dying to get into that strategy JRPG series. Next up, and still for the PlayStation 4, and please don't laugh that I picked this game up because it's Catherine Full Body. Now, yes, I know this game's a little bit cheeky, and I have played maybe about an hour of it way back in the day. It's a very odd game, or that's what I remember it being, but it's an Atlas game, and as I've said, I have fallen in love with Atlas, and I think everyone should fall in love with Atlas because they're such a wonderful, not only developer, they've got such a great eye when it comes to picking up other developers and promoting their games. So if you see Atlas on it, you know it's going to be quality, I know it's going to be odd, and I know I'm going to play it when no one else is watching me play it. But Catherine Full Body into the collection, where it will definitely get played and loved forevermore. Next up and last up for the PlayStation 4, we have a game that Scott over at Retro Rivals sort of forced me into buying by showing me it, and that Evoland. Oh, this collection here is Evoland 1 and 2. Now as you can see, it is a sealed game, and don't you worry, that seal will not remain intact for very long, because unlike some people who will collect sealed games, and if you want to collect a sealed game, that's fine, that's completely up to you. For me, if a game doesn't get played, if it remains sealed, when it dies, it doesn't go to video game heaven, and that's just a shame. Now this one here, haven't played, seen some gameplay on it. I saw some gameplay on Retro Rivals video when they picked it up, and I remember back in the day this being announced and being really intrigued by the progress from the 8-bit RPGs and working its way through as you progress through the game. Can't wait to unseal it, can't wait to play it. I have got a couple of big games on the brew just now, so it's going to be a little while, but this is probably going to be on the top of the list when the next game gets installed onto the PlayStation. It's in the collection now. Thank you very much for that recommendation, Scott, and I'll love that forever more likely. Next up, we're moving away from the PlayStation 4, dropping down a generation and onto handheld gaming, because I have picked up a PSP game, Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions. Now, hot take, yes, everyone knows that I love Final Fantasy. Everybody knows that Final Fantasy 7, in my opinion, is possibly, no, definitely the greatest game ever made alongside Suikoden 2, but I have never played Final Fantasy Tactics in any form. So when I saw it out there in the wild, there it was, sitting there, very cheap price on the PSP, a system obviously that I own. I had to pick it up. I do have Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I think that screen might just put me off from playing it on a GBA. This, however, slightly bigger screen, and I think I'll give it much more of a go when it comes to playing it on the PSP. But that's Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions. Now, I know some people say this is not the greatest port, but if I haven't played the original PlayStation version, then I'm not going to care. I'm not going to notice the differences, or hopefully not notice the differences. But it's in the collection now, and it's one that I will get round to quite soon, because it's about time I played some Final Fantasy Tactics. Moving away from the handhelds and back onto the main consoles, I did pick up a PlayStation 3 game, and it's Beijing 2008. Now, not because it's a special game, it's because it's a track and field game, and I absolutely love, and I have loved track and field games since the original track and field arcade game back in the 80s, and I don't have a version of any track and field game on the PlayStation 3. It's something that I had to address, so when I saw this out in the wild, and they're dirt cheap, I had to pick it up. So Beijing 2008 coming into the collection, because it's going to sit beside all the other generations of track and field-esque games. And I love these, and I don't care what anybody says, some sports games do matter, and for me it's golf games and athletics games. So it's in the collection where it will remain, and I'm happy for it to be there. Next up, we're moving down a generation onto PlayStation 2. I only picked up one PlayStation 2 game. I've picked up this here, Unlimited Saga. It's another JRPG, one that I haven't played before, and one that didn't get great reviews either. I don't care about reviews, as I said, because games are very, very personal. Some games are hated by many that are loved by a few, and some games are loved by many that are hated by a few. Now, what intrigued me especially with this one when I saw it out in the wild was this Final Fantasy X-2 Eternal Calm Final Fantasy X-2 Prologue disc. I have no idea what's on that because I haven't fired it up yet. All my PlayStation 2 time has been taken up by Parasite Eve of late, and that's such a wonderful game, and so glad I managed to get round to it, and you out there who sent me that game know exactly who you are, and I can't thank you enough. But back onto this game, haven't played it yet. I know Joey over at Total Level didn't like it, or I believe he said he didn't like it. I may be wrong, but I'll get round to playing it, seeing what it's like, because I want to play every JRPG ever made. It's as simple as that, especially if I've got turn-based combat. So that's Unlimited Saga into the collection, where it will be loved and cherished forevermore. Next up, we're moving down a generation, but staying with Sony, so the mighty PlayStation, and I picked up One Piece Mansion. Now, the reason that I picked up One Piece Mansion originally was when I saw it sitting on the shelf in the shop. One Piece, I automatically assumed it had to do with the manga or the anime with Luffy, but it's not at all. This came out just after, so it's weird to think that a game that came out just after a fairly successful manga got to name itself One Piece Mansion. Now, this game here is kind of like a tower simulator. You know what they're like, you know, you get Tower Tycoon and Hotel Tycoon and the likes of that. That's what it's kind of like, but not quite in the way that we would play them over here in the West with the likes of Bullfrog Sims. This game here is so typically crazy Japanese that I couldn't even play it. I'm going to have to read the manual, and I don't want to have to read the manual because reading manuals is for losers, but with this game I just couldn't work out what was going on. I really want to work out what's going on, and if anyone out there can tell me how to play this game simply before I have to open up that manual and read it for myself, then please let me know. Drop down in the comments, tell me there's an easy way to play this game, but I just couldn't work it out. It's 100% pure 90s Japanese crazy video game. Absolutely love that style of game anyway, but One Piece Mansion into the collection, where it will remain forevermore. And please don't make me read the manual. Somebody tell me there's an easy way to get my head around this game. Next up, and still for the almighty PlayStation, we have a game that I had back in the day that I wanted back into the collection purely because I had it back in the day, and that's Firestorm Thunderhawk 2. Now, I don't know about you, but this game was probably cutting edge at the time, and it's not so cutting edge now, but we can say that about a lot of PlayStation games. I did have it back in the day, however, and any game that I had back in the day, I'm going to want it back into the collection now. It's as simple as that. Some of the music in this is quite special. I mean, that's what the PlayStation was famous for at the beginning, the CD quality soundtracks that you had with them. But Firestorm, not a brilliant game, but it's fine, and it was one of the ones I had back in the day, and we all love to have the games that we had back in the day back in the collection. Even if they're not your favourites, it will still be loved the same as all the others. Next up, we're going to be dropping down several generations because I did take a trip back out to Forgotten Worlds. Fantastic retro and import video game store in Scotland, outside a little town called Stewart. I took Junior Pixel with me, yeah, the boy came with me, and he absolutely loved the arcade cabs there, the classic arcade cabs. I will have some footage playing here for you to see. Pixel Junior playing away on the likes of Pac-Man, but he loved it. Now, if you haven't been to Forgotten Worlds and you're from Scotland and you love video games, you need to get onto that straight away. And if you're visiting Scotland and you love retro video games, import video games, and just video games in general, make some sort of effort to get out to Stewarton and visit Forgotten Worlds. I can't recommend it highly enough. Now, while I was there, I did pick up that hat, and I also picked up some ZX Spectrum games because that's my flavour when it comes to the 8-bit machines. My first one being Postman Pat. Now you're probably asking yourself, why would I pick up Postman Pat as a 51-year-old adult? Well, that's quite simple. That was all down to two lunatics out there, two lunatics in the community, one by the name of Super Nintendo and one by the name of Jay's Manchild. And I tell you what, I'm not going to tell you about what they said about Postman Pat that made me buy it. I will drop their videos in the description. You can go and check it out for yourself and find out why Postman Pat and his black and white cat came into my collection at my ripe old age. Now, next up was a game that I picked up because I wanted it back into my collection. It's Finders Keepers, and as you can see down there, it's £1.99 range, and that did mean that it cost £1.99. Absolutely fantastic bargain back in the day, and still a bargain these days. It's like one of the few physical games I had in the collection, because back in the day we pirated everything. It's as simple as that. But Finders Keepers, physical, I had it back in the day, it's here now. And last up for the ZX Spectrum, another game I had back in the day, another really cheap game, and I got the call to pick up Booty. Booty is a simple one-screen platforming game. You collect the items to move on to the next levels. It's nothing too complicated, but I played the hell out of it back in the day. Again, it's on cassette like all the ZX Spectrum games that I had, well, until I got the +3 with the disc, but I didn't have that very long. But Booty, a game that I loved and played to death back in the day. Yeah, I loved it. And that was the last of the Spectrum games. So there you go, my friends, that's my video game pickups from the last few weeks, and what did you think of them? I mean, I think I picked up quite a few interesting titles. Certainly some of the newer titles that were released this year that I definitely wanted to get in and play, and of course some of the older stuff that I wanted back into the collection, or even into the collection for the very first time. Now, were there any games out there that you saw that you want to pick up, that you have picked up, that you maybe hate? Because if there is, drop that down into the comments, because the interaction between you and me, well, that's what makes YouTube special. It does for me anyway. Thank you as always for watching, and until next time, cheerio! If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check out the other ones on offer here, and also feel free to subscribe if you want to see more in the future.